How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. It's been a good day so far.
Well, that's good. I've done nothing today. Hmm. But where
Pretty
you
much just
huh?
one more time.
Where you are, it's 4 o'clock though, right?
Yeah.
36 over here.
Oh yeah. How's it going, dude?
How's it going?
Pretty good.
So did you guys get a chance to watch like that feedback that he gave us, like that little video?
Yeah, my bad for not sent what I read is that I only needed like to upload the video if someone was missing.
Oh,
So
I see.
yeah, so I did,
No
but I'll
worries.
make sure I do it this time because I had it recorded.
And then I think for this time too, I don't know if anyone has like, just spent a few minutes to maybe just do a little bit of the reading or just review the questions before we kind of started just getting into the conversation.
Mhm.
But something that he had mentioned, I don't know whose comment it was, but just spending 5 minutes either prior or just at the beginning of every call, just getting our thoughts together.
Mhm.
Just going over the readings because this stuff was submitted Tuesday and Thursday. So I don't know when the last time we've all pulled it up since then is. Um, but we could kind of incorporate that as well, just so everyone's a little more involved throughout all the conversation.
Yeah, I just right before this kind of reread and watched
Sweet,
everything.
sweet.
Mhm. Um, Had anybody else kind of reviewed the questions and looked over everything, or we need a second?
Yeah, I was going over the readings earlier today.
Yeah, same.
I guess we can just like get started. So I guess we're supposed to first start discussing the key ideas between integration, transfer, and conceptual blending. Personally, I kind of felt like conceptual blending and integrative thinking kind of overlapped one another. And then transfer was just obviously completely different. In that, I don't know, transfer had a lot to it because you had like the backward reaching high road transfer and the low road transfer and the high transfer and the negative transfer. So that was a lot to that one.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that transfer had a lot more like complexities to it in terms of I like what specific type of transfer. Uh, And yeah, I'd definitely say conceptual blending and integration are pretty similar, especially since I feel like it's happening at the same time, which I guess low road transfer is kind of does too, but like high road transfer, it might not be like immediate, you might have to think about it for a couple minutes. Um, I kind of thought it was all like transfer of knowledge though, you know what I mean? Or like of skills or like,
Yeah.
just using some sort of previous knowledge or knowledge from some sort of other field um, to kind of help you get through whatever you're doing. But
Yeah, and each way of thinking, you're kind of building on something, whether it be another idea or already knowledge you already had.
I basically said the same. I said that integrative thinking shares similar characteristics between transfer and conceptual blending. because they involve the idea of taking original thoughts and adding new, or agreeing or opposing perspectives and creating a middle ground. And I said that these skills also involve taking past and present thoughts and adding new perspectives to various topics. So I think these all kind of include like past knowledge and then developing a new perspective based on the present.
I don't know. I think all of these kind of, I just kind of started looking over the questions here, but I reviewed the reading. But from my understanding and how I interpreted things, none of these kind of really exists without the other, right? I don't think that blending can really occur unless there's some kind of a transfer, because transfer is, at least as per my interpretation, just context, and deriving one thing from another context. And yeah, essentially, and blending is just kind of, it requires transfer in the sense that you need to incorporate another form of thought into the thought that you're already working with to blend. So I think all of these kind of coincide. Are there more specificities with one than the other in terms of terminology when it comes to low road or high road? But I think in the process of doing one, it kind of requires the other two.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I don't know if y'all like read about the backward reaching high road transfer, where essentially you capture, like, I don't know, the example they use is you capture the attention and the votes of the public center, and then you backwards high road transfer, you would win the election ultimately because you picked something smaller to focus on. But then I felt like that kind of went against what integrative thinking is, because the whole purpose of it was to look at the entire picture. And in this concept, you were doing the exact opposite.
Yep, and I mean, I think this is where where I was getting at with transfer. Just ultimately, like I said, kind of meaning context, right? What context or perspective or paradigm or whatever it is you want to call it, are you really looking at it from? And each of them kind of imply their own, but it's just a matter of what context am I bringing in, leaving out, incorporating, drawing from, essentially.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty bad example in the text, honestly. I feel like they could have done something better with that, because yeah, I feel like it definitely can be like either specific like that and not looking at the whole, or like you can look at the whole too at the same time. Like that TED talk with the doctor that was, like the epidemic doctor around the world. He kind of looked at the gun violence as like compared it to kind of like the whole of virology or like epidemics. He didn't, I guess he did go into like some specifics, but I feel like he kind of compared them as wholes rather than like the separate of the parts. But
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting video, how he took like plague and illness and transferred over to violence and was successful.
yeah, I can't imagine being a doctor in camps like that for 10 years, man. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. And he came back for a break and then was like, oh, well, just kidding. Let me attack violence now.
So I guess more so looking at like the second part of the question, talking about what do they all do to innovatively solve a problem. What do you guys think this kind of offers there? Because I think the ultimate reason why you would really use any of these skills is to solve a problem to begin with, right? It's a result of problem resolution, essentially. But as for what it does innovatively, I think it's just the fact that you're not just using a singular like a singular thought out there, right? You're blending two things, or you're drawing upon one context and putting it into another, and you're creating a new unique thought, right? That's what makes this so innovative, and that's what kind of being interdisciplinary is kind of fusing context and creating unique innovative thoughts. So that's how I think it applies. But what do you guys think?
No, I mean, yeah, for sure. Just like in the reading and in the video, like Steve Jobs, they were like, whoa, he took the phone and the internet to complete in an iPod and made them all one thing, three things that separately we only could see apart from each other, and then put them all together, a concept that no one had thought of. And then with the hardware person, I like how they said, the thinkers, they have option A and B, and then they're like, why do I need to pick one or the other? I'm just going to make a better one. So it's really just how I think our whole society evolves, is the interdisciplinary thinkers out there that are not picking A or B, making option C and making it better.
Yeah, no, like I definitely agree. I can't really see any way that this can be used except solving a problem, except maybe conceptual blending, just like thinking about random stuff. But yeah, like uh, it it definitely really I feel like they all kind of loop into just critical thinking and problem solving skills for the most part. You know what I mean? It's different ways of thinking about the same kind of situation or event, drawing on different experiences that you've had in life, um, and kind of using that to solve whatever problem or whatever you're going through. Um, and I think all three options are pretty innovative, you know.
No, yeah, I'm with you on like the conceptual blending, especially just like in the video and some of the examples he used. I was like, okay, I don't really understand how this is teaching me anything, like the lion man or whatever. And the example of, I think it was his brother and him, and how he doesn't want to be his brother-in-law. And if it was his brother-in-law, that'd be horrible. And like that was conceptual blending. I don't know if they were just trying to like dumb it down, but I just did feel like they were very good examples to use.
Yeah, I also agree. I think what you said earlier about fusing like various facts, topics to develop like a well-rounded answer to solving a problem. I feel like that those three skills make up for what one lacks. So I feel like they're all necessary to be together. Um, I feel like that would be the best way to like solve a problem.
And I think what's really cool about ultimately being interdisciplinary is, I'm sure, and I'm just, kind of hypothesizing here, but I'm pretty sure this would be true, is the number of disciplines there are exponentially growing, because as we constantly have more innovative thinkers exploring different disciplines with the perspective of another, that's literally how new disciplines are born. So I think it's really cool that we're at a point right now, I think that's more advanced than ever, where we see the growth of, or the development of new disciplines, because our current age of thinkers breeds such an environment, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And especially like since, this day and age, everything's just getting more and more specialized in terms of equipment and kind of like what things need to do.
Mhm.
And it's requiring like a lot of skills, but a lot of those skills overlap in different areas. And I think it's a really good way to, accomplish that, where you can, be able to do like a lot of different, pretty specialized things, but and you have that knowledge just because you're able to take all this different info from different aspects of your life or fields of study and kind of apply it all to it.
Yeah, and then like when he was speaking in the conceptual blending video, um, and he was just saying, 800 years ago, it took 800 years to go this far, but then
Yeah.
then we're just building on top of each other because now are not we have that previous knowledge, and then it's that kind of goes over to transfer too, because we were able to take that and just speed up the process for everybody down the road. That's why things are just growing astronomically at this point.
Mhm.
Snowballs.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
So I guess like of all the kind of things that we had to do this week, between like the readings and the videos, which ones did you guys find like most interesting, like personally?
Probably the Dr. TED
yeah.
Talk. Really pulled at the heartstrings.
I did like the transfer like reading though. I mean, just like how they're talking about when we're in school and we do pop quizzes and all that stuff. It's just inert knowledge. It's not even transfer. You take it and you forget it immediately after. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
there's people out there who know this is useless and we just keep doing it anyways.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like both of those were pretty good. I did like the video. I thought it was very interesting actually to see. I've never heard of someone using that tactic to stop violence. I thought that was very cool. But also the reading how it related to education today, um, and trying to develop the skills for kids to memorize and use something in the real world. I thought that was interesting too.
Me personally, that Mark Turner video where they talked about the origin of thinking, where the thought that basically thought is unique to you. That is the only thing we've ever really created. I mean, everything else was kind of known before, but we are, due to being advanced, just mammals, I guess, are the first ones to ever create thought or have advanced thought as an output. And I had never really thought about anything like. I mean, that was like a yeah, that was just mind blowing. At first to just think about it that way. But I think it's a brilliant point that he made just through that video as well.
And then another one, which wasn't even about the thinking though, was opposable thumbs. I never realized, I don't know why it never clicked in my head why they were called that, but it was a basic one, but I had an aha moment.
Definitely interesting stuff this week.
How did y'all's group 1 meeting writing assignment go?
I did pretty well,
Yeah.
I think.
It's all right.
I mean, I think we pretty much discussed what the big point of this week's content is, that they're all have differences, but they're all necessary to, I mean, being interdisciplinary. You need one, you can't really have one without the other.
All right.
I would agree. Also, just using knowledge and things you've learned from previous aspects in life or things that you're doing currently and applying it, which I guess is just interdisciplinary in general. But like just talking about like transfer, specifically, like Avinash, you were saying, going through context that you've had or are going through and applying that to other aspects. Conceptual blending, other like you get an idea from one thing you see or have seen in life, and you start thinking about combining it with something else and creating something new. uh, it's all kind of just like using information and stuff that you've had or going through and applying it, I guess.
Yeah. I guess looking a little more into the second question, where it says kind of discuss why these skills are important. Um, though these skills are important, if they were so important, wouldn't we see more people practicing them, or we hear more about being interdisciplinary? Like, I don't get, what do you got, or what are your thoughts as per how important they really are if the application amongst society isn't so great yet? Because if it really was so important, then we would see all these disciplines kind of already drawing upon each other significantly, but they're still respectively their own. So if it is important, why haven't we seen mass use of it yet? Even though it does solve quite a bit of problems. And Yeah, I guess how would you guys go about answering that?
I think part of the reason, I mean, it's obviously out there. It's the people that are making the big changes in the world. I don't think it's been labeled being interdisciplinary. But I also think part of the reason it's not so huge is because it's not easy. Just like in the integrative thinking and how you have to see A and B and make that C. Like one of the quotes said is that you have to avoid that most of us like to avoid complexity and ambiguity and seek out comfort, simplicity and clarity. That's what everybody likes to do. They just like to take the easy route. And then, in last session, that's what we all discussed was like our biggest weakness was the tolerance of ambiguity. So we all literally said it last week. I mean, and so I think that's probably part of the reason is just because it is difficult to truly think interdisciplinary in all aspects. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good answer. I mean, they're definitely out there. I feel like sometimes we either do them like innately, like we'll think critically about something because we don't want to seem ignorant by only looking at what we think is true. Um, but I feel like the actual terms aren't being used in school, maybe because kids won't like listen to it or it's too hard to think for kids to use that. Um, I mean, we do, like you said in the past reading, that we have trouble like with confirmation bias and all those things. So I definitely think those play a part.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. Especially like when it comes to it being an eight, like low road transfer, it it's you kind of either, especially as a kid going through school, you kind of either think of it interdisciplinary or you don't. You know what I mean? Because you're not taught. No one's like, hey, you thinking about this? Like, um, so I definitely think it's just it's hard for some people, especially like getting into that kind of thought process, and then thinking about it, like with intent, is also hard too because you don't necessarily know, kind of where you're going with it immediately unless you have a good thought or if it's going to apply very well. And then I would also say on top of, it just being difficult sometimes, and for some people, um, it's it's also I feel like at least for me, like conceptually, it's hard to think about that you can learn like a bunch of uh, things super well from and kind of like combine them together. I've always kind of been of the opinion that like you really practice something and you get good at that thing, but then applying it to other stuff can be pretty hard. Like it was talking about with like chess players in the reading earlier. A lot of that like only applies to chess. Um, so I definitely think that's also a factor. Just um, I guess being able to apply it to other things. Sometimes there could be like some risks associated with that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So do we think that the only way to acquire this skill set is, I guess, via majoring in interdisciplinary studies, or how else would one become interdisciplinary?
I think
Because I mean, evidently there's a lot of skills such as, all these transfers. And I'm sure there's a few people that become aware of it just through living life or however so, but for the good majority of people, is the only way to become so through kind of academia, or how else would one become or practice these skills?
That's what I was thinking is through academia. Um, I would say like in a perfect world, like, going through elementary school, high school, all of that, even just little by little, if teachers were to start talking to me like, hey, you should think about these things, all of like these things can apply in so many other ways. I feel like a lot of school leading up to this point is a lot of memorization and
Yeah.
stuff like that instead of actual like problem solving and critical thinking and learning how to like figure out these issues instead of just memorizing the answer to them. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
I think
Mm-hmm.
it said that like in the article, it was just saying that, when we teach politics and race issues of the past, like we just teach it and we should be teaching conceptually and saying, look at it this way, to look at things in the future differently. And that's just not how it's been. So I think going to school to study interdisciplinary, that that's how you're thinking. I think there are a lot of people who already think interdisciplinary, Like I said, the people that are innovative and are changing things, like they brought up Elon Musk, or yeah. But I'm sure no one ever said, yeah, he's an I mean, maybe they have, but I'm sure he never said, I think interdisciplinary, that's why I'm successful. I think when you study it, you know that's what you're doing, but I think a lot of people are just doing it subconsciously.
Yeah,
I'm kind of with you there. I mean, I think, with being interdisciplinary, I personally think that everyone is kind of like selectively interdisciplinary in that they choose when they want to be, and they choose when they don't want to be, right? And I think everyone ends up practicing the skill set with a certain subject matter, discipline, or whatever it is they're really into. The greater issue is how do we get people to start applying that level of thinking to everything else, right? And that's something I've wondered, and I honestly don't really know the answer to. But I think that's the greater issue. Is I think this is a skill set that's almost picked up just through living life. Is at some point you have to take into account other people's perspectives. And the issue is how often are you willing to acknowledge them, do something with them, and ultimately create? Very rarely, right? And a lot of that is due to just I would like to say ignorance, right? Because you have to be willing to admit that there are multiple perspectives on most matters. So how do you kind of become more aware of the fact that everything is kind of open to interpretation until there's a more conclusive kind of or conducive answer? So yeah.
I mean, I feel like, people might come up with a conducive answer if they really want to. I feel like a lot of people have the opportunity to do that, but again, ignorance, or like in the reading, it was talking about people just seek simplicity because it's easy, and it's easier to have your own opinion because it's already in your thoughts. Like adding a new perspective does take time. You have to like see the pros and cons of those things, and some people just don't want to do that. So I feel like adding it to everything may be pretty difficult.
Definitely takes awareness and effort.
And I think like you just said, people like we like to pick simplicity, like this has worked before, it's going to work in the future. And I mean, some people try to pick the easier route, or not the easier route, try to develop an easier route, I guess. But most people are just like, this is how it's always been, this is how I'm going to keep doing it. And then they just choose, like y'all said, not to think interdisciplinary. And then I think also in there was like a lot of like upper management pushes not thinking, just doing. And so if they're telling you, hey, just get this done, then you're not thinking of a way to do this more efficiently. And then things just go on being the way they've always been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess time kind of briefly touching on the last point, the last question, because I think we've all somewhat talked about it, but what would you guys kind of say were your biggest points or takeaways from this week? Because there were big messages, but each person kind of, I guess, takes away a different concept. So what are things that you found that you would definitely want to incorporate, like legitimately in real life, and things that you found interesting or, really looking at it from that point of view?
I think, I don't know why, but the high road transfer just really stuck out with me. And just in that whole broad, I mean, how he took it from, like we said, dealing with illness and then came and fought violence, to totally different matters. And he was able to be successful. In the high road transfer, it says that it depends on you deliberately and mindfully extracting a skill. So you have to just really rack your brain. And, because this one, like in the low road, it was driving a car or driving a truck. That's just riding a bike. They transfer pretty easily. You might have to take a second to adjust, but this one's literally something totally different. And just like looking at the concepts individually and seeing what you already know that could go to something new, totally.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to successfully apply that was what stuck out to me.
I definitely agree. The high road transfer was really cool, and I definitely want to apply that more, be more active in applying that to my life. You know what I mean? I also use conceptual blending pretty often, but not always in like very productive ways, I guess. So just more reading about it, it would be cool to actually more try and like channel that, or like focus it and more like on, make a goal plan after that or something, like, like actually make plans and act on things using it.
Yeah, I feel like I would still use high road. I feel like it may be difficult just because after watching the video, I mean, I would have never thought of something like that to connect, but I would like to use it. And to use transfer just in my academic career, I felt like it could be beneficial to use it, even though it seems kind of difficult. I would like to use that too.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I think I don't want to focus too much on any one of the ideas personally, because I think it's important to use all of them. And I think the best way to use all of them ultimately is to just, I think from this point onwards, just to, with everything that you're working on or everything that you're doing, to just start using like a more abstract approach, right? Understand that your objective with this is to come out with your own thought, and ultimately your own thought here is going to be innovative, creative. It's going to be something new, as opposed to something that was already out there. And as a result of wanting to create such a result, you end up using many different types of transfer. You end up almost inevitably using blending, because that is the ultimate goal of all of these skills anyways. So you might not always know which one you're using, but I think as long as you're maintaining the effort to think in an abstract manner and lead to innovative results, you inevitably end up using all of them at some point.
Yeah, like how you said that eventually we probably won't even really recognize that we're using one over the other, because they're probably, if you take the effort to practice them, they just become one, which I guess is when you are thinking interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
It says like, how do these come into like your work life and everything? I don't personally have an example, but it brought up like my brother. He does like biomedical engineering, and they build like the layouts for doctors for surgeries and everything. And it was like I said, he was like, "There's such an easier way to do it. I know it. Why do we do it this way?" And like the answer he just kept getting was that because that's just what we've always done. And then he started doing it his own kind of way, and he went and showed his bosses, and then they were like, okay, this saved us so much time, we can save so much money. And now it's a training they've implemented across like the company, and he got a huge promotion. So it's just, I mean, you could definitely apply it in your work life and be more successful that way, especially if you're able to make ideas that are much more efficient and save the company time and money.
Yeah.
Kind of random, but kind of on topic. A lot of this reminds me of something I learned in another class with when it comes to brainstorming. Um, Basically, like you could, if you're brainstorming with like a group of people, ask one person to bring in like something that's important to them, like every person, and then just kind of think about those things while you're brainstorming. So like in the class we were doing, we had to like improve a toaster oven. And the thing we were given was the Sydney Opera House. And one of the things that you'd think of is like the roof, because it's one of like the defining features of it. And not many toaster ovens have like really cool like drying rack, or not drying racks, but like cooling racks and stuff like that. And you can use it kind of reminds me of this, with like the mainly transfer, I guess. Um, but it's definitely applied, everywhere.
So did you have to use the toaster to make the Sydney Opera House?
No, 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 no. We were basically just given a picture of it, and they were like, think about some things about the Sydney Opera House, and it could spark some new ideas to in like ways to improve a toaster oven.
Uh,
Basically, some like random object or idea, and it could spark new ideas for whatever you're trying to brainstorm or think about. So like it could have been like a snow globe or something like that. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah. So like, yeah, conceptual blending there, I guess. Huh.
yeah.
Mm.
That's about all I got. I mean, unless anyone else has some questions or ideas to throw out there.
Mm.
Mhm.
No. Did we kind of touch on where they show up in history? I know we don't have to talk about that, but
It was when skills show up in history.
I know there was an example in the Turner video of that, or not, it wasn't an example actually. Someone commented on it about like conceptual blending, how Benjamin Franklin, invented electricity, and then that's how Thomas Edison was able to grow on that one and create the light bulb. So that was
I mean, I think I don't have like a specific example, but isn't that what all of history is? I mean, moving from the Industrial Revolution into what we saw in the early 2000s, well, late, 80s to the early 2000s with the digital revolution. I mean, all of history is just ultimately a use of, it's a lot of transfer because you're using what was, used, created in the past to propel you forward. But it ultimately you're using all these skills to propel you forward in advance. So I don't know that I have a particular example, but it's used just about in everything. I mean, war, politics, the politics not so much, but technology, just about everything. Communication, transportation, everything.
Yeah, that's what I included in the big point, was basically just using the past, and then creating something new in the present.
Mhm.
So
well, then I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good. Are we meeting next week? I would assume the same time as well.
Um,
I can.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down for whenever on some days.
I may or may not be on Sundays. It's my birthday and I will be in New Orleans. So if I can, I will. But shoot. So I don't know if someone else wants to like host the meeting for next Sunday just in case. I'm not on.
Sure. Or is there another day that works for you, just so you kind of don't miss out on the participation?
I can do Monday if y'all can do Monday.
Like tomorrow?
No, like the 14th, like next Monday.
But wouldn't this be due after? Like when's the next
Oh yeah.
or
Oh,
due before?
got you. Duh. I don't know. Yeah, because I leave Thursday and come back Sunday.
Did you talk to the teacher?
I know he said that you can miss one, and so someone just has to upload it to YouTube, and then I can watch it there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sweet.
Sounds good.
So if someone else just wants to host it and post it in the announcements, 'cause I guess it has to be different every week.
Oh, it's a different person every week?
It's a different what?
It's a different person every week?
No, but it's just like if I host it in my Zoom, then when I post it, I won't be here to start the meeting.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, I can host it, I'm sure.
And same time? 4?
Yeah, works for me.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Like I said, I may or may not be on there. I don't know if I'll be at like the airport and have time. So
All right, sounds good, guys.
New Orleans will be a lot of fun though. I'm jealous.
thanks. I'm excited. I've never been. All right. Well, adios.
All right, guys, have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Hey.